Hello, everyone. This is Rosie, and thank you for tuning in to this episode of my podcast called My Intrusive Thoughts. Sometimes I just hate my recorded voice so much that even if I'm not bluffing up, blundering, whatever, I still feel like, what the hell? And I just end up not putting in these voice clips when I'm editing. So this is like my third trying to start this episode and failing miserably at it. But we're gonna persevere through it and try to keep going. Not off on a good start, but hopefully this is gonna go better. Fingers crossed. So, you guys probably have guessed from the episode title that this is gonna be all about the Pink Nation, the Pink Cult, the Pink, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, regime. Is it? There's so many different um, titles, nicknames, stuff going around. Some are supposed to be apparently offensive, but funnily enough, all I could see from all of that was just desperate attempts at making people feel bad about liking something. And yeah, but yes, we're going to be talking about Barbie. As is my, what do you want to call it, tradition, before I start talking about some topic, I usually give you like a little background story about how I thought about this topic. So, with Barbie, actually, I was not gonna watch it. I was not interested in it, mainly because I was not a Barbie girl growing up. It's as simple as that. Um, I was like, I can't recall. Like, I've tried so hard to recall if I ever was interested in playing with dolls altogether, which I find that I wasn't. Um, I was more of like a, hands-on physical games, like, exercising, running, jumping, these sort of things, and sitting still and playing with toys was just like not my thing. I didn't find it very stimulating, I guess. Um, and then kind of when I started growing up and I was able to read, then I just that was it. After that, I did not even try to look for a new hobby or find any other interest, and I was like all about books. But I mean, who did not, as a girl growing up, own a Barbie? I think I've been gifted a few Barbies in the course of my lifetime, and I find them fascinating. I did enjoy the dressing up part sometimes, actually I enjoy it now more when my nephews and nieces, they play with these toys, and I can finally like understand the simple joys of life, like just sitting down and playing with your toys. Because god, I was one complicated kid, and I just could never appreciate that time. I just always needed to be doing something more. And I know that sounds very controversial, and people who have enjoyed playing with toys would be like, "How dare you say that?" I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend anybody. But I feel like there's gonna be a lot of offending going on in this episode because, whew, I am kind of triggered by a lot of things that were said about the movie, about just, you know, the idea of females all around the world finding something to, be happy about unanimously. And I say it with, utmost responsibility that sometimes the society just won't let women breathe. And it's the most ridiculous, idiotic things people come up with to just, rain on parades, just to make us feel like, we're dumb and stupid. And I just cannot deal with it. I cannot deal with this. My God. And I think that was number one reason why I'm losing my voice. Wow. I'm sorry. I've been ranting so much for the past 2 days, that I feel like my voice is like, bye bye, girl, bitch, bye. Anyway, so I think that was one reason why I wanted to watch the movie, because although I was not interested in it, and I mean, to tell you the truth, when I first saw the trailer and I saw Ryan Gosling as Ken, I was kind of creeped out. I don't know, don't come for me. I just did not like the look. I don't know. I mean, of course, they made him look like that, look more plasticky, the abs looking more like superficial, all of that. It was part of the whole, idea, concept. But still, just I don't know what it was, but I was creeped out. But anyways, I still ended up watching it because I was going through Twitter as always, and I found like this thread of people just bashing, like full out raging about Barbie and how it was like a political agenda against, men and neo-feminism and, pink cult and women trying to be extra, and a lot of a lot of bullshit that I just did not want to see. And I don't know why I still ended up seeing it. My logarithm is messed up, I guess. But yeah, I happened to chance upon that, unfortunately. And I was just intrigued, by the whole thing. And then, Pakistan, as always, just finds ways to ban things. Like, it's so ridiculous how this whole system works. I don't understand it, and I need somebody to explain it to me, how and why people just find it, okay to randomly start banning things. Um, I just think that we are so backwards as a nation, truly, that we feel so triggered and threatened by media and by films and, just by normal things that everybody should be talking about. We should be past the stage where controversial things should be taboo, because I, for one, my opinion is personally that the more you make something a taboo, the more you stop people from talking about something, the more ambiguous, it gets. And therefore, there's a higher chance of people, resorting to unethical ways of getting to them, because obviously there's this part of you that is curious to know why is this thing banned. Like, you just naturally, as a human being, get attracted to things that are not meant for you. Is that a cliche? I don't know, but that's true. It's human nature. If you're gonna stop me from doing something, for some reason I'm just gonna find it more appealing, right? So, and even, that's not even the point. The point being that we have become so backward in thinking as a nation that we feel threatened by a movie that is empowering women. And I want to just take a moment and think about and, reflect on what this shows to the world, to girls of my nation, of my country, that we as a society are so threatened by the idea of women having, you know, this fantasy world where they are, ruling, they're excelling, they're just being themselves, they are getting to make choices, they have a voice. It just blows my mind. But, anyways, so, the fact of the matter is that I ended up watching the movie, and, surprisingly, I enjoyed it. I mean, I was not expecting it, but it ended up being so relatable. Because, like, I kept seeing tweets about how people cried in the theaters when they watched it. And I was like, what is there about Barbie that could, like, what possibly could there be about Barbie that would make anybody cry? Like, what is it? And I ended up watching it, and I did not cry, but I understand. I mean, there were some points in the story that really hit me and spoke to me. And, I felt like somebody had taken thoughts out of my brain and just made a movie out of that, and that felt really nice. I mean, as a female, as a woman, as somebody who belongs to a society where we're still struggling every day to have equality, to have our voices, to, just have a platform where we can just be. This movie spoke to me. So I'm just gonna give you like an overview, and also a spoiler that I'm gonna be talking about the plot and everything. So if you haven't watched the movie and you plan to, you can skip on this one for now and then come back when you're done watching the movie, and maybe you would have a better idea of what I'm talking about, and would not have the plot entirely spoiled for you. So, anyways, I'm gonna be reading out the basic information about the movie from this Wikipedia page, and it says that Barbie is a 2023 American fantasy comedy film directed by Greta Gerwig, who wrote the screenplay. Based on the Barbie fashion dolls by Mattel, it is the first live action Barbie film after numerous computer animated direct to video and streaming television films. Actually, this had me thinking, have I watched any Barbie movie? And I was looking through, my Netflix, and I realized that I did indeed try and watch a few movies. One title stand out to me. I don't know what it actually was, but something with Pegasus. Is that the word? Yeah, it just that word has stuck with me ever since I saw that. I don't even remember the movie itself, but there were like, I think, flying unicorns in it, ponies, I don't know. But that's one vivid memory from childhood that I have. Um, I think I have watched these movies, but I don't recall them right now. The reason being that it's been too long, and it's a part of my childhood that I just kind of brushed over because, entertainment was never, what do you call it, like a main focus. So, anyways, I was more of like a cartoon girl, like Tom and Jerry, Scooby Doo, Pink Panther. Like that's the kind of thing that I would die for, even now. Even though I don't like the latest Tom and Jerry movie with like the whole um, animation live action thing, that was just ridiculous. I don't know. I just didn't like the idea. Anyways, I'm getting off track here. Back to Barbie. So the film follows Barbie, who is played by the gorgeous Margot Robbie, and Ken, played by Ryan Gosling, on a journey of self discovery following an existential crisis. Distributed by Warner Bros. Pictures and released on July 9th and July 21, 2023. And the running time is 114 minutes, 114 minutes, which I think is adequate enough. Like, I did not find the pacing to be slow or whatever. Like, I enjoyed the movie, and it was like, I think, fairly paced in my opinion. I mean, there were some parts where I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, what but I did not lose interest at all, like, I would say. I guess, yeah. And it grossed a whopping $795.7 million on the box office, which is great, I think, for a budget like 128 to 145 million dollars. Um, that was a good one, and I think I read somewhere that it is Margot's highest grossing movie up to date. Maybe I'm wrong. I think I read somewhere like something like that. But anyways, that's a little overview of the movie. And let's get talking about the plot now. Let's do a deep dive into Barbie. I can't believe I'm saying this, but yeah, let's do it. To be fair, I watched this movie like yesterday evening, and I planned on like immediately recording this podcast episode, and I almost did, but then my microphone died halfway, and then I had to like redo it because I had lost my sort of momentum. and I am doing it again now. And I think I might have forgotten a few things that I wanted to talk about, but hopefully, as I go through the plot, I will be able to, you know, remember what I wanted to say. There's a lot going on in this movie. I would like to think that the satire of this movie is pretty poignant, in my opinion, because the way the screenplay is, it just it's like in your face, very much, with the gender disparity and just the way like a stereotypical society works, and it's like innuendos and double entendres and just the satire related to that. And it's funny how that outraged so many people. It's like, I don't understand how the idea of a fantasy land where women are, empowered and, living a perfect life. They have jobs, they have real responsibilities, like, they have important, you know, positions in the society. They're doctors, they're lawyers, they're teachers, they're doing all these things. And for once, the men are, just, what do you call it, frolicking around and just vying for the female's attention, and just living their life, looking breezy, just not having any purpose in life whatsoever, kind of thing. And you know I'm not saying that that's how world works as well. I mean, it's a very exaggerated take, but then I think that was the whole point of the movie, to show that both the extremes are just not applicable or sustainable. And as much as it vouched for women and represented women and female empowerment and female power, and just, voiced their existence and their problems, and just, what it feels like to be a woman, I think it also at the same time talked about the kind of things that men go through, and just people in general. I think I love the fact that not only did they focus on Barbie going through this existential crisis, but as much as Ken. And the way they wrapped up the story was a little kind of like, you know out of the blue for me. I don't know, I just wasn't expecting them to do what they did, but then at the same time it kind of, I think I should have seen it coming. But anyways, overall, I feel like I don't understand. I just don't understand what the rage is about. Like, I just don't understand why people would be triggered and people would think that, oh my god, it's going to threaten somebody's um, status quo in society, or you know the way they live their lives, or the way they make and choose what priorities they have by just watching this movie. I mean, yes, it impacts you in a way that it shows you a world which is fantasy, but also relates to the real world. But that does not mean that, everybody's gonna look at this movie and be like, oh my god, women should be in power and men should just, like, be our slaves or whatever. Nobody thinks like that. I don't know why people have this idea that, if you watch this movie, that's what you're gonna think. Like, oh my god, everybody's gonna turn into like these pink monsters, and have like pink dresses, and all pink cars and pink houses, and just, whoa, calm down, calm down. I'm struggling to, really wrap my head around all of that. Anyhow, let's jump right into the plot. So, the plot basically is that there's the stereotypical Barbie, played by Margot, and I have to take a minute and talk about how incredibly pretty she looks. I don't know, it's just her eyes, like, they're the bluest of blue, and she has this very pretty smile, and the blonde hair. Everything worked out so well. Like, I don't think that given the option, I could have chosen a better Barbie, and she played it so well. And I mean, my initial reaction to Ryan as Ken was a little off, like I said before, but he really nailed it. He is such an amazing, versatile actor, and I enjoy the fact that he just takes up this role, whatever it is, and he just goes with it. He just flows. Like, it's just so, he depicted Ken so naturally that I was just blown away by the nuances and just by the way he acted. Like, he is a dream. Anyways, so the stereotypical Barbie, and they're like other fellow Barbies, which are also part of like the Mattel collection that they've released, and they also showed some discontinued ones, and that was like a point of contention for a lot of people. Like, why would they show a Barbie that has been discontinued? Like, give it a rest, okay? Give it a rest. Anyways, so they all reside in this Barbie land, which is a matriarchal society where women are self-confident, they're self-sufficient, and they're successful. But on the other hand, the Ken counterparts, for every Barbie, spends their days engaging in recreational activities, at the beach or like other places in the Barbie land. And the Barbies, all of them hold like all the important jobs, like doctors, lawyers, politicians. So there's this one Ken, which is the beach Ken, played by Ryan, is only happy when he is with Barbie, and he tries his best to like, you know, get her attention. He chases her basically all throughout. Wherever she is, he's there, and he's just trying to get her attention all the time. But then Barbie, she just doesn't want that. She really enjoys her independence and her female friendships and the life that she's living, and she just keeps rebuffing him and rejecting him. So he's like, that's the contrast. That's the way they've set up the premises of the movie. And the beginning, like, there's this one thing that everybody's crazy for, is when she enters and basically she wakes up, and there's like all these song numbers on this movie, by the way, are brilliant. Like, wow, God, we'll talk about the songs, but anyway, so there's a scene where she takes her shoes off, and then she stands on her tiptoes like a Barbie would. And somehow that one scene really kind of like blows you away, because that's Barbie. That's like, the, what do you call it? The signature Barbie with the tiptoe ballerina style foot. I don't know what it's called. When she's standing on her tiptoes and everybody's like, whoa, what the hell? I'm like, yeah, that was really nice. And apparently there were not a lot of CGIs in the whole movie. Like, they barely used any special effects for the movie, and it was literally just Margot standing on her tiptoes in that one little scene. Anyway, so what happens is that during a dance party that Barbie throws, because that's what she does, she dances, she dresses up, she just goes around, plays on the beach, perfect life, okay? And so she's throwing this dance party, and suddenly she just gets this, weird feeling, and she starts thinking about death. So like, they're all dancing, and then suddenly she's like, oh, I've been thinking about death, and everybody freezes. Because, like, that moment where she's like, everything is going perfect, and then suddenly she's like, oh my god, death. And everybody's like, what? What did you just say? And then she's like, oh, or not. And then everything goes back to normal. I had to, like, pause in that one scene, because, I don't know, like, it just stuck out. Like, it just kind of really kind of like blew me away for a minute, because although they were trying to showcase a completely different scenario that led to like the further development of the plot, that one particular scene really was so relatable to me, in the sense that you ever have those days where everything is going perfect, like everybody around you is happy and having the time of their lives. You're maybe at a party or something, hanging out with friends, and suddenly you just get struck with these blues out of nowhere, and you're just like, your mood dampens, and you just like, your energy gets drained, and you see everybody else being so loud and boisterous and having the time of their lives, and then you're there in your corner feeling just isolated and lonely and just like struggling to breathe, essentially. And you want to voice out these thoughts and maybe, talk to somebody about it, but then you see everybody so happy and so cheerful, and you're like, I don't want to do that. And you sometimes you do speak out loud, and then when people are like, what, like, because they're not in that headspace, right? And they're not ready to kind of like accept those emotions, or filter or figure those out, you're just like, oh my god, you feel guilty for talking about them, so you just like, you cover up and you're like, I'm fine, I'm fine. That really has happened with me, right? So I felt like, oh my god, yes, yes. That was the moment where I was like, relatable, so relatable. I feel attacked. I feel personally attacked. Anyway, so that happens, right? So she's starting to have these thoughts about mortality. The next day, she wakes up, and every day she has the same perfect routine, right? But then nothing goes right. She tries to take a shower, but the water's too cold. She spills milk on, like, the imaginary milk on her, and just everything just keeps going wrong. And then suddenly, she the most pivotal point of her routine going wrong is that she's standing on her tiptoes, and suddenly she discovers that her feet have gone flat, and she also has cellulite on her legs, which is, whoa, like, not happening, what the hell. So she gets freaked out, and then she like goes up to her like other Barbie friend, and she's like, oh my god, look at this. And everybody's like freaked out, and they're like, oh, why don't you go visit the weird Barbie, and maybe she will have some kind of like a solution for you. Now, weird Barbie is that disfigured outcast, who's always in splits, like, you remember, like, when you would play, and even now, like, I see my, nephew and nieces playing with dolls, and somehow they always put these dolls in splits. Like, I don't know what it is about putting dolls in splits, but so this disfigured, quote unquote ugly Barbie, as the other Barbies like to call her, she lives off, in a corner of the Barbie land that nobody usually visits, and she's weird, but she's a wise Barbie, right? And she basically figures out, when Barbie tells her, the stereotypical Barbie tells her that she's having these problems, she's like, oh my god, I know what happened with you. So she tells her that she has to travel to the real world and find the human child, who is basically keeping her, and who's the owner of her, and who's playing with her, and they have to fix whatever happened to that child, for in order to, like, break this connection between the real world and the Barbie land, and everything would go back to normal. So at first Barbie's like, what? But then she's like, okay, I'll try. So she gets into her convertible car, which is pink, by the way, and really cute, and she reluctantly, goes, like, sets off on her journey to the real world. But while she's going on the way, Ken realizes that he is nothing without Barbie, so he has to essentially follow her, and he does. He hides himself in her car and then suddenly pops out. And I just love that scene where, like, she gets scared and the car literally just, goes off track. Like, it flies into the air, turns around over, and then they just plop down on the side of the road. And I'm like, this is the most plasticky, like, the most fantasy thing that has happened in this movie so far. I mean, not even her being on her tiptoes. It's this car flying into the air, doing a 360, and then just plopping down on the side. Was the funniest thing to me. I just really enjoyed. I don't know what it was about the whole uh plastic dolls live action thing, but it was very fascinating to me. Anyway, so she allows him to tag along with her, and they arrive whilst going through these, like, different scenarios of Barbie, dolls, and they reach the real world, and they land at the Venice beach, and something is wrong. So essentially, what is wrong? Basically, as soon as they land, they're on their roller skates, like, because of course Barbie has to be, roller skating across a beach, looking pretty and perfect in her blonde hair and everything. So the first thing that they notice is just the stark difference between Barbie land and real life, of course, because in real life, in real world, she gets jeered at. She's a girl, she's perfect, she's blonde, she's pretty. So what happens naturally? She gets literally called out, jeered at, made comments at, and she starts feeling weird because that's not how it works in Barbie Land, right? Because women are secure, women are nice to each other, they compliment each other, and even Kens are like not disrespectful. They all are, complimenting and just, being nice. And suddenly these real life men are just being rude and being annoying and just, downright creepy. And she's like, what the hell? And she looks at all these women and everything, and she's like, wow, it's not how she thought reality would be like. And at first, she's like very flabbergasted by the attention, and she tries to, like, feel nice about it. But then she's like, no, I'm uncomfortable, and this does not look nice, and this does not feel nice. And I thought I would enjoy it, but I'm not enjoying it. And she's like, that monologue that she keeps doing out loud is just so relatable. And I just don't know. Like, if you see this movie from like an unbiased perspective, you would just understand. Like, imagine being a doll and then just suddenly coming to life, and then, you're a doll. You have that perfection of a doll, right? And you're literally stranded in the middle of a beach, surrounded by men. Like, honestly, tell me, what would you think? What would you feel? And how would you react to that? Because I know for sure that I would be freaked out. Okay. Anyways, and then Ken's like, okay, what the hell? Because for Ken, it is also culture shock because apparently women are not leaders. Women in the real world are not as powerful, as impactful, as, like, out there as in Barbie Land. And it was just funny how, like, ironic that was, because for me to, walk out right now and, just take into account the fact that everything around me is dominated by males in every aspect of life. And I'm not complaining about it. I'm not saying that, oh, what the fuck, men should die or whatever. I'm just saying that that's the fact. Like, I come from a society, especially, where we have male dominance in every aspect, because we considered males as the providers, as the protectors, and I'm okay with that to a certain level. But when it comes to the extent, like, at the expense of snubbing female voices, that's where I have a problem. That's when I'm like, no, sorry, I can't deal with this. But anyways, for Ken, it's like a completely, like a 180-degree change, because he comes from a land where literally everything is owned by women. And to see that men here have their own lives, all of a sudden it's like, what? I exist, like, I have a purpose in life, like, I have some value, like, I don't have to just follow Barbie around. Like, so ironic. Like, it's just mind blowing how, like, if you just literally looked at it contextually, and not just contextually, like historically, if you tried to connect the dots, if you just sat down and tried to connect the dots and understand the underlying message that it was giving you, you would not be out there typing all those crazy, ridiculous comments and just trash talking about a movie that literally I felt like was one of the best satirical pieces of our times. In any case, so she's basically there to look for her human owner, right? So that's what she does. She tracks this girl down called Sasha, and when she starts on this journey, everybody's like, in Barbie Land, they're like, oh my god, everybody's gonna love you, they're gonna be like thanking you, all the girls are gonna be like, because you're so perfect and you've given them all these messages of empowerment and, having a perfect life. You've set like these ideals and bars of expectations for them, so maybe they're gonna be like, so respectful of you, and they would hug you and tell you how much they love you. But that's not what exactly happens with her, right? Because when Barbie shows up to Sasha's school and she's like, hi, and I'm Barbie. First of all, Sasha, rightfully so, thinks that this woman is nuts. And she's like some random weird woman who's cosplaying as Barbie, because who in their right minds would, look at somebody who's dressed as Barbie and be like, oh, so you are the plastic Barbie, the Barbie from Barbie Land. Like, yeah. So anyways, she's kind of like confused and irritated, and then she's like, what the hell? And then Barbie's like, I am Barbie, don't you like me, don't you love me, and she's like, no. And in that moment, it's like, for me, it was the the heartbreak that Barbie felt, because she is a doll essentially, right? And she is in the human world, and now suddenly she's feeling all these emotions, and going through all these things that normal human beings do, and she's just confused, and she doesn't know. And I think I loved the idea how she was like voicing out her thoughts and her feelings and trying to work through them, trying to pinpoint what was going on. That really, it really struck a chord within me, because usually, as humans, we are so kind of trained in a way to just snub our emotions, to not really talk about them, to kind of like internalize everything that's happening with us. But that's not what she does. She talks about them. She's like, constantly saying whatever's coming to her mind, and trying to kind of work through her emotions. Like, oh, I feel kind of scared, and I'm like, this. She's basically describing herself being anxious, and somebody in the back is like, girl, that's anxiety. I had to laugh at that, because she has a doll, doesn't know what anxiety is, right? And then she's feeling all these things, and she's like trying to think and trying to figure out what the hell is going on. Somebody's like, oh yeah, that's anxiety. That really made me laugh. Anyway, so Sasha basically gives her an earful of why she hates her, and she's like, you are just a mess, you're boring, blah blah blah. You're not as perfect as you think you are, because you didn't really do anything for me. And truth be told, you set girls up for literally impossible expectations to meet up to, which is not possible. Like, nobody can have like perfect skin, perfect hair, perfect makeup, perfect outfits all the time. And she basically is like a regular teenage girl going through her regular teenage angst and character development and personality development. So she is kind of naturally rude to Barbie, and Barbie's like shocked, and she's heartbroken, and she feels betrayed, because she thought she was doing something good. And that feeling, that moment where you have somebody's best and trusted heart, and you try your best, but then it turns out that your best was just not enough, and whatever you thought you were doing right was not actually helping this person, and you feel betrayed, and you feel sorry, and at the same time you feel kind of like, you also feel unappreciated, and you feel like a failure. So that's what happens, in the face of all these allegations of unrealistic beauty standards and whatnot. Barbie's distraught. So she basically is like, oh my god, what do I do now? And there's this one more scene. God, there are so many incredible scenes in this movie where you just like, they're heartwarming and they're gut wrenching at the same time. So Barbie is sitting at this bus stop thingy, and there's this old lady sitting next to her, and she's crying, in all her perfection, all her glory, blue-eyed, blonde-hair glory. And she turns around, she looks at this woman, and the stark difference between them, their appearance, is so like significant in this one scene, because one is a weathered, old woman who has all these human, attributes to herself. She's as human as a girl could get. And then there's Barbie, and they smile at each other, and she's like, you're beautiful, and the woman smiles, and my god, it's like, in that moment, I just don't know, like, just being accepted and being complimented. Like, for example, I mean, to explain it even in better terms, like, if I am walking down the street and a guy compliments me, I'll probably be like, yeah, thank you. But if like I'm walking down the street and there's a girl walking down the street as well, and we look at each other and she compliments me, I tell you, like, I kid you not, I would be thinking about it for the rest of my day, because it feels beautiful to be complimented by a fellow beautiful person. And it's just the idea of camaraderie in this. It's just the idea of companionship. It's just the idea of female friendships, and it's just the idea of female interactions that they've showed. Because I tell you, the amount of compliments I've gotten from my friends, my girlfriends, versus the amount of compliments I've gotten from my guy friends, which to be fair, I don't really have that many guy friends, but still, girls would compliment you all the time. Like, it's just a thing, with females. It's a female to female bonding thing, right? Where you see a pretty girl, you're gonna tell them they're pretty. And it's just, we try to lift each other up, the emotional kind of bonding, it's just beautiful. And the way they showed that was really pretty, because she was distraught herself. She was going through like a cultural shock, like a reality shock, actually, like an existential shock, basically. And still in that moment, she found herself wanting to appreciate this person, and just because she could, and she did. So that was beautiful. Anyways, then she has this idea that, oh, somebody mentions Mattel, I don't know how, like, Ken, I think, talks about it. And Ken, on the other hand, is just like horses, and oh my god, the world's like run by men over here, because he's like exploring around, and he figures out that the president is a male, all the CEOs, important positions are held by males, and he's like, what? That's how this world is run? Like, oh my god. And so what does he do? He goes into the library and he gets books on horses and male domination and everything. He's like, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna start this like revolution. I found it really amazing how both of them were going through this existential crisis where both of their worlds had been rocked by comprehensions of the actual world, and how it's so you know starkly different from theirs. And both were going through different ideas. And what does Barbie do? Barbie is like, I need to figure this out. I'm gonna go talk to the CEO of Mattel, the one that made Barbies. And Ken's like, I'm gonna go back to Barbie Land and we're gonna change the rules. And he's got into like the dominator mood. Anyway, so basically she goes to this Mattel building, and she's like, oh, I need to talk to the CEO. And in her opinion, because she comes from a place where all these important people are females, and naturally she thinks that this whole franchise, which is catering to girls, is about girls and females, would probably be run by girls. But when she ends up at the top floor, all the way up, she realizes that that's not the case, because it's a bunch of men sitting there. And she's like, wow, my whole life has been a lie. So the CEO, which is played by Will Farrell, he's like, what are you doing here? And oh my god, like he just goes into CEO mode, and it's basically Mattel and all the cronies of the CEO. They try to put Barbie in a toy box, and how do they do that? They sweet talk her into it, like try to build up his facade, and they basically try to trick her into getting into the box. But she is smart. This stereotypical Barbie has got brains, and so she escapes. Then she realizes that the reason that she was having this mental breakdown crisis thing is not because of the girl Sasha, but her mother, who is actually an employee of Mattel. Sasha and her mom, they basically end up saving Barbie from the clutches of these Mattel CEO and his cronies, the executives and stuff. And they escape and they give chase, and it's like a whole action thing, which was kind of funny and fun at the same time, because like, who doesn't love a little car action in the movies, right? Anyway, so what happens, on the other hand, Ken has learned about the patriarchal system, and he feels respected, he feels valued, and he feels seen, and he feels accepted in this world. And he's just like ready to run back to Barbie Land and persuade the other Kens to take over, and tell them that the Barbies had indoctrinated them into these submissive roles, and they don't have to do that. And instead they're going to make the Barbies be submissive and be their maids and housewives and girlfriends and whatever. So Ken escapes, and Barbie is like trying to chase off the Mattel CEO and his cronies. And all three of them, Sasha, her mom, and Barbie, end up going back to Barbie Land. Now, when she comes back, she's like, very confident that she's gonna kind of like, have all the other Barbies help her to kind of, modify the situation and everything. But when she comes back, she realizes that Barbie Land had changed. It had turned into Ken-dom. This is where it starts to get crazy. Because, like, when she, comes back, she sees Ken has taken over. All the Kens have taken over. They have all these Barbies bewitched into, like, submissive roles where they're, like, serving them drinks and giving them feet massages and all those, like, ridiculous jobs, basically. And she tries to, like, argue with, these Barbies and the Kens, but they all basically, like, what the fuck? Bitch, bye. And she just kind of gives up. That's the moment where she's like, oh my god, this has changed, whatever, I can't deal with it. And that is the moment she has an actual, like, active mental breakdown. And Sasha and her mom's like, oh god, what do we do? Barbie's, like, literally losing it. So with the help of Sasha and her mom, Barbie basically is transported back to the weird Barbie. And there's other character, Ellen, which is also a doll, basically, and other discontinued dolls, basically, all of them. They are gathered in Weird Barbie's house, and they basically try to knock some sense into the stereotypical Barbie, and we're like, you shouldn't be giving up. And it's just, the idea that all these outcasts have formed this, like, bonding, and they're, like, ready to help, and they're just nice people, but they're being rejected by the society standards, and so they have to find themselves on the outskirts, and they still are, like, regular people. And just the fact that they've been termed this certain way, and they have been kind of, like, projected in a certain light, that they have to keep themselves in the shadows, that really, really spoke to me. Anyways, so all these Barbies, they try to convince that stereotypical Barbie, Margot, to kind of, like, get her shit together. And while doing so, Gloria, Sasha's mom, she gives this incredible speech, talking about how women just can't be. And I think this was the major takeaway from this movie, where she talks about how women have always struggled to just be, to exist, because you're either too short or too tall, you're black or you're too white, you're skinny or you're fat. Like, there's never been a break for females, women, all around in history. And to this day, women have to excuse other people's behavior, man's behavior, their shortcomings, whilst, living in the glory of their sacrifices, and living under the false glory, I should say, of their sacrifices. And it's just, I mean, you have to take it with a pinch of salt, I know, but it's true. I mean, it won't make you less of a man to admit that it has happened. It is happening. To this day, there are females out there who cannot even step out of the house without a man's permission, because the society, the rules deem them to be. There are still places, there are still people out there, women and men alike, who don't have the autonomy to speak their minds, to dress the way they want, to talk the way they want. They are, constricted and restricted by these ideologies that harm them, not only physically, but mentally, and just as a human being. It strips away your personality, your existence, your value. And unfortunately, that is so significant for females and women of our society. And that speech was, like, very eye-opening, and I really, really enjoyed that speech. But anyways, that kind of pulls Barbie out of her little, trance, and the other Barbies as well. So they decide to, use Gloria's messages to kind of, like, get all the Barbies back and bring them out of their, like, subordinate behaviors. And they kind of, like, form this little, team that goes around kidnapping these Barbies, bewitched Barbies, and putting them back together, back to their senses, bringing them back to their senses, and then they decide that they're gonna fight and overpower the Kens. Like they concoct this plan where they're gonna manipulate them, the Kens, to fight amongst themselves and distract them so that they can, uh, you know, get the constitution back to how it used to be. And I feel like this was where I had a problem with this because, yes, it is showing that, the world has always considered this a vice where, it's pitching people against each other. Because it was showcasing the idea where historically two characters have been pitched against each other for a third person's attention, for example. And mostly it happens with females. Like you could look at any rom-com, melodrama, story out there, novel, book, drama, movie, where they're always going to be like in a triangle. There's either going to be two males vying for a female's attention, or two females catfighting and just like slandering each other for a male's attention. So that was kind of off, but nothing too drastic for me to be like, oh my god, this movie needs to be banned and nobody should be seeing this. Like, god. Anyways, so basically that's what they plan on doing, and that's exactly what they do. But during this, like, when they're going about this plan where they're like, wooing the Kens and then pitching them against each other, and they start fighting, and then there's like chaos, they realize that the previous system that they had, the matriarchal system, was not actually working out, because at the end of the day, they were putting these Kens at a disadvantage, and they were stripping away their personalities from them, because the way their system worked, they did not have a place for Kens, and they did not even give them the choice to, want to have a place for themselves. So, by the end of the, story, what happens is that both Barbie and Ken, they apologize to each other for their wrongdoings, and they acknowledge at the same time that both of them were doing things wrong, and they were failing each other. Ken basically talks about how he does not have a purpose or an identity without Barbie, and he just doesn't feel like, he's anything. He has much value to his name. And Barbie, on the other hand, encourages him to, find autonomy for himself, to, go look out for his own purpose. And that was beautiful. I think in that moment, it signified what the internal struggles that, males in the society have. Because yes, males have emotions, and yes, they have these feelings of hurt and of distress. And a lot of times, the way our society is built, it puts so much pressure on these people to not talk about these things, to not openly discuss these things. And that turns into resentment, and then that results into oppression and just aggression and all that. So just voicing out what you're thinking, just communicating. Like, I think the biggest takeaway from this movie is communication. It's just saying what you feel, just honestly expressing yourself. When Ken expresses that he feels like he does not have a purpose, but Barbie goes ahead and encourages him, and she's like, no, you do. You just have to find it for yourself. And Barbie herself, even though she's like unsure of what she's gonna do with herself, she still goes out and helps him. Like, she wants to help him. She extends a helping hand to him by encouraging him to look for his purpose. So then what happens is that the CEO and his cronies, they have reached Barbie Land as well, and suddenly she's like, okay, things have to change. Obviously, we need to make some, changes in the whole Barbie Land situation here. She's thinking about all of that, and then she's like, so what is my purpose? Like, if I'm not supposed to like be living my, perfect life all the time, having girl nights all the time, being this perfect Barbie that I am, what do I do? And then she meets the co-founder of Mattel, which is actually a woman, and it's a spirit of her actually, called Ruth, who explains the actual Barbie story. And she's like, Barbie was made for her daughter, Barbara. and she talks about her roots and her ever evolving history and everything. And that kind of like is like a lighting bulb moment for Barbie, and she's like, okay, so I can be anything I want to be, right? And I think that was cute. Like, I don't know, I still have mixed feelings about that scene because um the way the story was going, like the trajectory of the story was very much, purpose focused and like self reflection and inflection focused and kind of all that jazz. But then suddenly switches to this like, oh, I want to be a human, and I'm like, is that a genre shift or whatever? Like, I don't know, it just felt a little too sudden for me. So what happens is that when all the Barbies, Kens, and Mattel executives they bid Barbie goodbye, she decides to become a human. And she returns to the real world with Sasha and Gloria. And the end is basically that she is now called Barbara Handler, and she's off to her first gynecological appointment. And that's it. That's where the story ends. I really enjoyed Dua Lipa and John Cena as mermaid Barbies. They were so cute. Oh my god. And last but not least, the music album of this movie. I don't know, something about Lizzo. And then we have Barbie World, Nicki Minaj, Ice Spice, Aqua. That song is everywhere. Everybody probably has heard it. And then Billie Eilish. This girl, I feel like if they had offered Billie a part, I think she would have made a very pretty Barbie. Because she has like those pretty blue eyes. Like, I love Billie Eilish's eyes. Like, she has incredibly beautiful eyes, first of all. So, for her to, be part of this project with the song What Was I Made For, I fell in love. Like, I don't know, I have not stopped listening to this song since it came out. And that part in the story when this plays, I cried, almost cried. Like, I did not cry, but it just fit in so well. And the lyrics are so beautiful. They're so beautiful. Oh, by the way, I did a cover, like a spontaneous, like I was sitting down thinking about recording this episode, and I just had like this idea of, recording a cover. And so I did. It's on my Instagram. If you have not followed it yet, please go follow. It's called my intrusive thoughts, and I kind of post some like music covers sometimes, like song covers, and I did one for the song. And god, I love it. I loved all the songs actually from this album, especially the dance number, the dance night by Dua Lipa. All in all, I feel like it was a very enlightening experience. I enjoyed it. I wish I had my girlfriends around this time so that we could like dress up and go and watch it together, and girl power, and just feel pretty, and just have a night where we feel represented. We feel like, you know you always see all these people like the comic book lovers and everything, the Marvel universe lovers, and you have the DC universe, and then all these like Harry Potter and stuff. Like, I was young when the Harry Potter books and movies came out, and so I never really got to actually go to a screening or something like that. But even though I'm not part of like the Barbie like world or whatever, but I still just the idea that females all around the world had something to just unite over and be excited about. And just like, I kept seeing all these covers and these makeovers, and just girls having a day out, going out to watch this movie. It just felt so nice to have something to celebrate, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the pink trend all over. It was pretty nice. And I think at the end of the day, it all boils down to the fact that as human beings, I feel like everybody deserves to have things to celebrate, things to enjoy, things to be happy about. And if you're gonna be the kind of person who's going to, should talk, or, judge people for just literally liking something, you need to reevaluate your life. I don't know. I don't care. I have like been subjected to this sort of like, judgment when I was in school, high school, be it about BTS, be it about Justin Bieber, be it about Harry Potter. It's just let people live. If something is brightening their day in a way, if there's something that is making somebody feel better, somebody smile, if there's something that's motivating somebody to do something in a positive light, why do you have to go and invalidate them or make them feel small or make them feel stupid and dumb? Like, I don't understand. Like, why do people have to be nasty? Why do people have to be judgmental and criticize every single thing? Like, god damn it. Stop. Just like get off your computers and just go out, breathe some air. It's just like calm down. That's what I want to say, honestly. So at the end, did I feel like overthrowing all the male population of this earth and establishing a matriarchal society and, you know, turning all the men around me into slaves? No. I think what I got from this movie was the fact that everybody has a purpose, and we just need to be driven and motivated enough for ourselves and for others and try to motivate others and help each other. Be kind and to always try to communicate what we're thinking and try to do it in a polite way, at least, because niceness does not cost you. Being nice does not drain your bank at all, like not even a penny, not even a cent. Like, I don't understand. It's simple as that. Be nice and people are going to be nice to you. Be kind and people are going to be kind to you. Like, for me, if somebody's going to be nice and somebody's going to, like, try to make me feel good, I'm going to try my best to, reciprocate that 100 folds. And I hope that it works the same way for other people as well. And don't take others for granted, like people around you who are in your life and who encourage you. And I feel like you need to feel good about yourself, but also you need to make others around you feel good about themselves too, because that's how it should work, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. So I loved it. I think I really enjoyed this movie, and I enjoyed Ken and his uh just dumb ideologies. Like, it was just so funny. He's like, I didn't really want to turn this entire thing into a patriarchal society. When I realized that it had nothing to do with horses, I was like, the whole point of your struggle was to somehow, have horses in the whole equation, which never happened. And he was like, "Oh, I give up. I can't do this anymore." Um, but I loved how they both understood and acknowledged each of their failures and shortcomings and decided to work on them instead of like blaming each other for their, you know, shortcomings. That's a big takeaway as well, in my opinion. So yeah, how would I rate this movie? I think I would rate this an 8 out of 10. Actually 9 for John Cena because he looked so cute in that wig and in that outfit. I really enjoyed it. And Margot, she is so pretty. She literally nailed this role. And every other Barbie, all the Barbies, Ellen, all the Kens, everybody just looked so pretty. The costumes, the setting, the design, the setup, the sets, the locations, like everything. I think mostly was filmed in England, and it was really pretty. The sets were amazing, pink, plasticky, Barbie land like. I would love to live there. Honestly, if I had a convertible like Barbie's, I would not be at home at all. Like, I would literally sleep in it. It was so cute. Yeah, I think that is it. That's the end of my Barbie rant. I hope you enjoyed listening to me. And if you have watched the movie, please let me know what you think. You can, go over to my Instagram and we can connect and you can talk if you want to about the movie some more. And you can share your ideas and thoughts with me. Hopefully, I will be back with another episode next week. And also, oh my god, today is Wednesday when I'm recording this. It's 2nd August, and tomorrow, 3rd August, is gonna be 6 months of this podcast airing. And I'm just so excited and so happy. Congratulations to us, um, me as a host and you as an audience, for these 6 crazy months. Thank you so much. We have crossed over like 300 plays so far, and that's a lot. Honestly, the idea that there are people out there who are listening to me and who enjoy this content and who have interacted with me on Twitter, on Instagram, my personal socials, telling me that they liked listening to my episodes. Thank you so much. And hopefully, I can bring you more enjoyable content. I have some big news coming next week, probably, so stay tuned for that as well. And I'll see you next week. Allah Hafiz.